A bad report card on American education. New test scores show that American students continue to lag in international rankings. According to results from the Program for International Student Assessment, U.S. teenagers ranked below average in math and near average in reading and science, trailing behind countries like Japan and China, where students of the same age continue to maintain top scores. Can this be fixed, and what does this mean for businesses and America's competitiveness? Here to discuss this, Michelle Rhee, former chancellor of the public schools in Washington, D.C., and currently the CEO and founder of Students First. Michelle, we're very happy to have you on our program. You're such an education expert. Let me just start with this first question of, can this be fixed? Because just about every CEO that Tyler and I talk to are very worried about U.S. competitiveness and, where are they going to get top talent in the workplace if our kids in school just aren't doing well? What do you think?
It can absolutely be fixed. And I hear the same thing from business folks saying that they can't find people in their applicant pool who have the skills and knowledge that they need to fill mission critical jobs. That means there's a misalignment between what we are teaching our kids in school and what the workplace requires. It can absolutely be fixed by doing a few things. First, we need to make sure that we have high standards for all of our children. And we're putting those things in place right now through what is called the Common Core standards, which will ensure that we have a set of national standards that are internationally benchmarked. So that's one important thing to do. The second thing that we have to do is invest in our teaching force and make sure that we have the most highly effective and the best prepared teachers. That's what other countries that are topping the list internationally absolutely do. And the third thing is we have to have accountability, and that accountability has to be at every level, from the students being accountable to the teachers, the principals, all the way up to superintendents and school boards.
Michelle, I was speaking earlier today to Craig Barrett, the former head of Intel, who's devoted much of his life lately to schools and education. He made exactly the same point you just did on accountability.
Yeah.
Is it not just accountability of the teachers and administrators all the way up to the superintendents of schools, but is it accountability also for students? In other words, do we need to be tougher with students, more demanding of them, and hold them back more if they're not making the grades?
Well, we do have to have accountability at every level, including the students. And I think part of the challenge that we face today is that in American culture, we've really shifted in the last couple of decades, where now we spend a whole lot of time trying to make kids feel good about themselves, but we've lost sight of taking the time that's necessary to actually make them good at things. So, I always use the analogy of my kids. I have two daughters who play soccer. They're not so good at soccer, but if you could see their rooms right now, they have trophies and medals and ribbons. So we've become this culture where, just by showing up, you get a trophy. And I don't think that does a lot for our American competitive spirit. I think we need to teach the kids that in order to be the best, you have to work hard. You have to be really diligent. And I think if you look at the Asian countries that are topping the list, they definitely have a much more competitive culture where kids are expected to work a whole lot harder.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because we see in countries like China and India how much of a work ethic the students have and their parents. And in a country like Korea, a few years ago, illiteracy rates were really high. Now the kids are super smart. So, sort of two questions. If we send an American kid into China or Korea for a few years, would they come out as math whizzes and science whizzes? Is it our culture, or is it our education method here in the U.S. that's holding things back?
So I think that America is the greatest country in the world by far. And I think that Americans have the ability to do something that no other country really does. But we are struggling right now in terms of trying to create the kind of public education system that is going to ensure that all kids are doing well. And so if you send an average American kid into China or Korea right now, they wouldn't perform particularly well. But I have every sense of confidence in American kids that if we were to set up the right education environment, that our kids could absolutely outdo any kids anywhere in the globe.
Well, that's a very upbeat note to end this conversation. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Absolutely.
Michelle Rhee, former chancellor of the public school system in Washington, D.C.